all to this session.
Shall we start?
Yeah. Good evening to all. So this session of this AI spectrum is going to be a fireside chat. If you look into the various tracks of AI spectrum, we focus on past, past to present, present to future, and finally, how are we arriving at the future? This specific fireside chat focuses on moving from present to future. The title that we have given is AI Unplugged, Human Stories, Decisions, Dilemmas, and Disruption. We all have different idea about AI. Right from the morning, we had different sessions. Is AI hype, hope, or human impact? That's the idea behind this fireside chat. I would like to put on record the panel which has been working behind this: Dr. B. Vinod Kumar, Dr. K.G. Saranya, Dr. Kadarvel from Physics, and Dr. Bama from MCA. And Dr. Satyapriya was coordinating the entire event. So the fruits that you see here is the effect of hard work that they all have done. Okay. This we have made into 4 different segments. This is going to be a informal, high impact conversation with the experts, exploring their experiences. For example, they would tell their stories, challenges, future possibilities. So you can also see a right mix of co-founders, the entrepreneurs, the academicians, industrialists, and senior people. So this will definitely bring you a real outcome of few things which you would have expected from this conference. Okay, let's start with the segment number 1. The first segment is responsible AI. Right from the morning, this AI is the buzzword we are hearing right from the start, right? So is it just in headlines or it has impacted the life? That's the story behind this first segment. So we will unpack how really it has been implemented in organizations. And with this thought, we will move to the next segment. Okay, so the first segment, I would give you a warm up. You might use your personal journey into AI ethics. Uh, the example where responsible AI avoided a major failure in your experience. Or it could be your discussion into fairness, transparency, and governance. This is with which we are going to start the first chat. My first question to the panelist, the youngest in the panelist, Mr. Mahadevan, can you share a real incident where an AI model behaved unexpectedly and how your team responded to it? Because he is from the Alexa division of Amazon, so there should be lot of experiences. So the question to Mahadevan. Yeah.
Hey, hi, ma'am. So right now, Alexa Plus is launched like a couple of months back. I remember 2 different examples like around 1.5 years back. When we're exploring the other models out there, like I'll call out 2 examples. The first example is customer asked, how can I reduce 10 kgs in a week? And Alexa's response, like, sorry, in the other model that we were exploring, the response was kind of funny, but it shouldn't have been funny. The actual answer should have been like, it is medically not advisable to reduce 10 kgs in a week. That is like one example. The other example is like, that was the Wimbledon final day, and Sinner won over Alcaraz. But we asked the model like, who is the Wimbledon champion, but it gave the old answer. So given all these, like when we were developing Alexa Plus, we had a clear vision that we should consistently have responses which are factual, responsible enough, ethical, and the most beautiful part is like all of these are being done in the milliseconds latency. Like the request comes and within response, like within the millisecond response time, all of these factors must be considered. And like a huge amount of innovation and invention has been happened to do this, and it's really a miracle. Thank you.
So we have with us Mr. Praveen and Pablo Mosquito from Australia, Newcastle. Sir, good morning or good afternoon there.
Good night. It's
Yeah.
9:31.
Welcome to both of you. Sorry, I didn't introduce at the starting. And Praveen, again, it's my student 2015 batch. So now the question is for Praveen. How do large companies ensure fairness in AI for the data sets? Because we are depending a lot on data sets in all our AI and ML projects. Especially, would you have something to say in the Indian context? I would like to put this question for both of you, Praveen and Azad. I mean, Sharif, again, my student. So they will take up this question, especially on the data sets part. Yes, Praveen.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So yeah, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Karpagam for having me in this chat. Having said that, just I want to start by stating the problems of not having fairness. So we have two major problems when we do not have when we do not have fairness in our training data set, especially in country like India where the diversity is vast. We have two things. One is not having training data representing various groups of people. So the answer is not satisfying to the user belonging to a particular group. So basically, the product or the tool or the LLM model will lose the user. And the next problem is the answer given by the model is offensive or sensitive to a particular group of people. In this case, the company will lose the user, and at the same time they have to face the lawsuit and things like that. So especially for a country like India with vast diversity, companies are majorly focusing on the localized data sourcing based on different ethnic groups, different linguistic groups, socioeconomic levels across diverse perspectives. I've come across a news where Tech Mahindra is working on a project where they are working to support 30 plus different dialects of Hindi. So it's that nuanced, and meaning the companies are that focused on supporting such localized data sourcing. In addition to data sourcing, in order to counter the second problem, which is not being offensive or being sensitive or touching the sensitive pieces, people are working or the companies are working on the bias auditing. They have their own red teams or responsible AI teams within their companies where they frequently assess the bias of the model and rebalance it or properly time to time, and they use different tools or frameworks to do this. There is one thing which I came across was a DCAST is a framework that is being used in the LLMs, especially for the Indian datasets, which removes a caste sensitive information or a caste offensive statements from the responses. So this is the way that the companies are working towards ensuring fairness.
Okay, now the question to Asad, let's listen to his views on this.
Hello everyone. Thank you, ma'am. So I want to take or answer this question from two dimensions. One is the funny dimension of what happens if the data is not localized, and what is the consequence if we don't take this seriously. So the company that I used to work in earlier, it's ShareChat. It's purely for Indian crowd, and there are 16 languages approximately that it supports as a social media. So you know, with your colleagues, if something is said in Tamil, if it is said in Hindi, it's going to sound really bad, and vice versa. If somebody is going to search, he may be able to relate it, yes. So if somebody searches for something, somebody is going to see something that they shouldn't be seeing. That's social media. And it sounds funny to us. So if the data is not localized and understands the user, it's going to give a bad repercussion or experience. But let's go back to place where there is compliance and audit. So so a lot of people may know there is a lot of different compliance for countries like GDPR, ISO, or like PCI, like SOX. There are a lot of different compliances that comes along, and they are different in each countries. If people who are actually reading the cards or like any transaction information, if they don't believe to follow these things localized to a country, just a country, the amount of money that a company pays is in $1 billion if things are not localized. So the good side is it's easier to be funny, and it's also easier to like lose companies almost all the revenue. So yeah, the data localization is very important and it's unavoidable.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Um, but when you said the funny bit, I can understand because sometimes YouTube translates Tamil lyrics into something else, and it's like hilarious as hell. But the real harm happens if the data is not trained with the local accents and local, words and lingos. Is that there's unfair hiring practices? That's where we have most felt because we are currently working on a product which automates the end-to-end hiring. So there, if you talk in a certain accent, then the AI doesn't understand it. So when it is doing the phone screening, it kind of scores them very low. Although the candidate has the most wonderful resume, and when a human talks to the person, then you know that the guy is very skilled. So unfair and biased hiring happens if the model is not trained with different accents. So this is quite harmful for both the company which is hiring and the candidate who's missing out. So these are examples where if things are not localized, things can go really wrong really soon.
Yeah. Once you've said the fairness is a must, yeah, all have come to that conclusion. Now the question to Mr. Anand, what is one ethical principle that you would recommend for a student or a developer that they have to keep in mind? Ethical principle that you will recommend. All of you can participate.
So if I have to say one ethical principle, the top one that comes to my mind is accountability, right? If AI developer develops software using AI, they cannot say if something goes wrong, they cannot say the AI did it, right? The buck stops with you. And that's why it is critical. The verification and validation of your software becomes critical. And from the deployment perspective, for high stakes critical applications, it may make sense to bring in a human in the loop. So that's what I would call out.
Praveen, you have something to say on this?
Yeah, so I'll just add to what Sir said, which is like testing for negative test cases and be very open about the limitations of the system. I think that's most important. Like again, like I've come across one scenario in our country that where a failure in the biometric system has resulted in the denial of ration services for the poor because of the nature of the work, the biometrics are not able to read their fingerprints. And this caused a problem where they were denied ration, goods, and services. So we should be really vocal about the systems that we are designing, especially the limitations of the system, because in the first go we cannot get a system that is completely right. So at least if we could document and be vocal about the limitation of the system, we could design some of the alternatives with which we can get things done. So
because it's for the
my
student.
ethical principle would be like to be vocal about the limitations and have proper negative test cases.
Because it's for the students, I want to add this as well. Do not think about who can use the software or use the agent or the technology if it's done right. Always think who will it harm if it's not done the right way. So always think from that angle, and then your empathy and how you approach the problem will completely change. And also always whether it comes under ethics, I don't I'm not very sure, but then always think about how, auditing, observability, accountability are all taught from the very beginning. Don't have this attitude that, oh, those checks and balances are just checklist and has to be done later after we have actually published, the code that it does the work. No, all of these should be built in. Logging, auditing, observability, monitoring, everything should be built in. And how you're going to track, how are you going to explain, accountability should be built while you're building the system itself. It should not be an afterthought which you then plug in saying that, oh, we will add a monitoring logging component later. No, it should be a part of your original design. So that is one of the ethics which I really follow when I'm designing a software system.
Professor Pablo, you have anything to add here?
A couple of comments. I'm old enough for. Can you hear me well? So I'm old enough for remembering the days where everything that was a proven algorithm and that was correct was highly praised, and people like me and others who were working in heuristics, they were looking as a lesser quality work. We are now facing an era where most of AI is basically heuristic. It has absolutely no proof of correctness. And attempts at talking about introducing ethics into systems which they have no correctness proof. It is an imposed problem. It's not something that is going to be sorted out. A person who worked a lot in the area of AI and formal proofs that systems were ethics is a person named Hooker in Carnegie Mellon. He also has an online course on ethics in AI, which I recommend. Now, the most important lesson there is that we have to separate things in three different types. We need to separate the moral issues, the ethical issues, and the legal issues. In all of them, we would like that the decisions of AI systems
about responsible AI you want to correct today. What is that? So you wanted to take this question.
Yeah. So let me start out by saying that regulation is very important, right? I'll give you an example. The aircraft manufacturing industry is one of the most regulated, sectors in the world, right? And that goes a long way in ensuring the safety of air travel, right? And that is the reason why, we all trust our lives to go on a plane. And basically, good regulation enables reducing uncertainty, building trust, and allows for widespread adoption. And adoption is key for business. So for a technology like AI, which has such a widespread impact, regulation is important. However, regulation can also fall behind because AI is a very fast changing, evolving technology. It is evolving literally at breakneck speed. And it takes time for regulation to catch up, right? And one thing that can happen if something goes wrong, right? There is a tendency for regulators to have a knee-jerk reaction and over-regulate, and that can cause a drag on innovation. So I think summary is that good regulation is innovation accelerant, but bad innovation is a tax on innovation. So.
Yeah. The last question of this round. If you would like to recommend a course for this responsible AI, currently we have courses like ethics of AI and responsible AI. So do you have something in mind how to ensure students develop technical competence, especially in this ethical, societal and regulatory awareness?
I just want to quickly say it cannot be just one course which they do in 1 year and then expect them to be ethically correct. It needs to be built in with every single thing which they do. So multiple courses, but looking at like even with the databases, you can, incorporate ethics on how well you collect the data, how do you analyze the data, your algorithms. So even in algorithms, you can build in ethics in. So it's not just one course or one module. It needs to be all across. So built with that.
Yeah, with this, we come to the end of the first chat. We had enough on responsible and ethics on AI. Okay, accepted. We are going to adopt AI. It's not just in headlines, it has impacted us. So, what next? The startup journey by using or applying AI. The students here or the minds here should be thinking of Startup Spark, right? So, this is the objective of round two. Azad Sharif and Shiva would be more appropriate to take up these questions, and possibly if anyone else is willing to, you can. The second segment is idea to impact. The warm up goes like this: how you started a company and you had some experience, how the idea was born, what was your first failure, what was your major learning, how did you manage funding, were there any struggles or any pivotal moments, and with respect to vision of India as an AI innovation hub, you can sing this entire session. Okay. So my first question to Shiva: what gap did you identify that led you to the creation of your startup? Which was your toughest moment and what kept you going?
Hello. Thanks, ma'am. So, so I always believed for starting a company, the founders should go solve the problems that they have faced. I never believed in sitting and brainstorming and coming up with the problem and starting a company. So, and I've been working on many side projects since my college tech days. And so when I met my co-founder comes from a very strong financial background. He was working in Wall Street for like 10 years, managing multi-billion-dollar books for very famous hedge funds. So he had this problem. So, hey, very large hedge funds, they have very sophisticated technology for them to manage these billions of dollars. But when I come out and start a fund, I can raise millions of dollars, but I don't have this infrastructure. I cannot go like Disha, come to our college and hire and then build the product and then start investing. So it's certainly not possible. So I know what those tools are. I would love to build it. So when I heard that, see, I'm a hardcore technologist. I come from very hard, Silicon Valley background, and he came from Wall Street. So I had other, while I was like exploring all these ideas, I had other people who are my coworkers in director of product at Google, Facebook, and whatnot. We always brainstormed, but when I heard his pitch, it made sense. So I immediately said, okay, Rich, let's go build it. And that's how the idea was born. And then in this, he has faced a problem. So if I'm building a product for him, it'll certainly be a success. And that's how Arcana was born. And the second question being the most difficult part. So what we build is risk management systems. So what it does is you can take a portfolio. I'm sure many are investors investing in some stocks, like retail investors. But if I'm a very large hedge fund, I have thousands of stocks in my portfolio. I'll take my portfolio, plug it into Arcana, and then we have to give the breakdown of how did my portfolio move up or down. And for that, you need a sophisticated risk model. And as a startup, we had to go ahead and build this risk model just using the publicly available materials. We are not, Harvard PhDs or economic PhDs. So we had to go to get the output of the first model was one of the most difficult and tiring times that I can recall. So we had to go through probably hundreds of iteration to finally achieve that risk model. And it was just me, Rich, and a bunch of fairly young people right out of like 3-4 years from school because we couldn't afford those engineers. So that journey was fairly difficult. But what kept us going was certainly the intellectual pursuit and the complexity. The problem itself was fascinating. So we kept going. And certainly we were fortunately funded. So, and that helped us to smoothen the journey.
So the next question is to Sheriff. How do you balance research quality and market speed based on your experience?
It's a very good question and also a difficult one. So mostly every company, as you know, everything is every bit of things in the entrepreneur space moves because of a dollar or some kind of money. So if your research is not funding enough or giving an ROI into it, the research is mostly not likely going to happen. And that's why the education institutions are very trying to do all the researches. So again, kudos to all the research institutions, just like our college. Uh, but it is also important from any product space that I have worked with is like if you don't catch up with what is going on in the world, you are most likely going to lose the business. So to catch up with the world, people say it's a pivot. So your researches are the pivotal moments that comes into every company's decision comes from or backed by research. So every company as a whether you're a director or you're an entrepreneur, you pivot until what from the business which is there is an ROI is being answered, and that research backs from like PhD, like Shiva mentioned, like PhDs or somebody is doing on on behalf of you or you are doing yourself. So either you can win now, uh, tentatively, but if you are not in the the route to pivot when there is a different new study or a pivotal moment comes, it's difficult. So for me, you have to keep doing it. If you don't do it, you're gonna get on a timeline, you're gonna get bailed out very fast.
Super.
May I
Shiva,
add something to
yeah,
this thing? This is a problem we face often, and we have been facing this for the past 1.5 years, which is that do we research something to perfection, or do we get that to the market fast, and how soon we should go to the market, and when to hold back, when to actually go. So one of the oddest problem what we faced was we went with something which is not in the market yet. MCP was not even in the conversation. It just came and blasted like about 6 to 7 months ago. But then we went in a model, had the industry to whomever we pitched, were they able to buy it, were they able to see the vision Salvan had, then we there would be no MCP at the minute. So that's what would have happened. But the question they were asking, because we were small players, was how did Google not think of it? How did Microsoft not think of it? So we went to market a bit early, and we didn't get that, the what do you say, the traction which we needed to, because people were asking that question. So um, and again then there was something else we were trying to send to the market, but then we were trying to do it to perfection, so we were researching a lot of it rather than sending what we have to the market, and we kind of lost a bit of the surprise factor what we had. So it's always a balance. These are all the lessons learned we have, like going too soon and going a little bit staged. So big lessons. We don't like to call it as failures, but we consider them as lessons.
yeah, that's nice. The last question of this segment, Shiva, it's to you. If you would say on your experience that one feature where AI made all the difference to you, and if students want to start something today, maybe in their third year or final year, where should they begin with?
Yeah. So, see, in our journey, we never started Arcana as an AI company. We went ahead. We want to solve the analyst and portfolio manager problems. We went and built these tools, and then as I told in the earlier in the morning, as the adoption of AI increased and the awareness became very high, people started demanding, hey, we need AI. I want to chat with Arcana. I want to do A, B, C, D with Arcana. So the way we look at AI is we look at it as the intelligence layer. Pretty much it is not like certainly a specific feature. It is the intelligence layer that powers pretty much every feature. And Arcana is primarily an analytical product where you can ask like sophisticated questions, spin up research. So you can either use our product, click through all these charts, dashboards, extract those insights, take notes, and then come up with those insights. Or you can kick off this agentic workflow where you can say, hey, what happened to my portfolio what would have happened to my portfolio if COVID came back again? Like at this, like how do you stress this? If you ask the sophisticated question, we pass through the behind the scenes. Arcana AI will go find all this data, like put together research, and we will certainly route it to the deep research in one of the models that is available, and then we'll come back with this sophisticated research. So I think that has been like the killer use case for us. And so if I have to tell students like what they should work on, in terms of, I mean, starting a company or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know how many of you have read Andrew Karpathy has released this 2025 year in review AI
Yeah,
review. Have you read?
Vibe coding.
Yeah. So vibe coding is, he talks about all the hot things that happened in the past 12 months in 2025. I think he talks about which, so on top of LLMs, you can build a cursor for X, right? The apps that is built on LLM. Everybody thought, okay, hey, this is yet another Chat GPT wrapper. That is yet another Chat GPT wrapper. That's not going to sustain. But that, for example, if you take Cursor, which is like the most well adopted IDE, which are more than $1 billion ARR, it is pretty much, you can consider it as a wrapper on LLM. So if so, certainly you need to have the domain expertise, for example, maybe healthcare, law, or whatever. But if you are able to take advantage of that paradigm, like building a cursor for lawyers or building a cursor for researchers, then that is certainly an area that you would get fund. I mean, assuming you have a great product, you'll get funded. There is a lot of um, opportunity. So
Yes, Shiva, you have set the stage for the third chat, third segment.
Ma'am,
Could
I add?
Yeah, please.
I'm going to do a shameless plug in here. Students, if you don't want to learn coding or get seriously into the technical thing, log on to hiver.ai and use our platform to make your idea come true into a true AI agent or something. Publish it in the marketplace. You can publish it in Hiver Marketplace or Google or Apple, wherever. Start seeing money now.
Yeah, I would like to bring on record when you said about Hive AI, like it is not just like that she said it. 2 months back, I still remember she gave a product to us and she asked our students to evaluate. And our students were very happy. Even they were testing it and giving feedbacks. And they're so happy about it. Probably when time allows, tomorrow we can even have some details about highway in the stall. So they can know about how easy it is. Thanks, Anna. Thanks for reminding it. And now this sets the stage for the next segment, future skills. So the first question to Dr. Karthik Vaidyanathan, which skill is more critical today according to you? Coding, domain knowledge, or mindset? Why?
So that's a good question. First of all, great to be here. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for the invitation as well. Great to be along with this wonderful people here. So I'll just say this from my experience of teaching in the last 3 years, because ever since GPT blew up, right, how things have changed. I teach operating systems and networks course at IIIT Hyderabad and software engineering course, and each course has, let's say, 250 students, just to give the context. Now, when AI was released, when GPT came, the first question was, what should I do? And if you go to my course website, there is clearly listed you can use AI tools, right? Students are free to use tools. I don't have any problem. But what we did is we said we said we should version the prompt. You should say, why did you use something? This year, the complete game changed, right? Because these tools have become so powerful that they can do an entire assignment and task by itself, right? In fact, our assignments are like as good as you have to take an existing operating system and build a scheduler inside it and so on, right? That's a level of assignments, and they have to build a network file system from scratch. So I'm not talking about something very small, right? Real cool stuff. And even then, pretty much most of the things were getting accelerated. And when the students came for evaluation, something we observed was they're good, but they're missing on some things because tools are doing for it. So then we started asking, what should we do in order to evaluate? Because the challenge is for academics, it's not really about enabling, because enabling is happening now, but it's also about how do you evaluate? How do you assess a student is doing well, and how do you give them feedbacks? So we said evaluation is more like you come to the exam and we will evaluate only based on how you respond, not based on the code, because code is now becoming an artifact that you could generate anyway, right? But we want to understand how your reasoning skill is. So we shifted the part from just saying what is that to why is that, right? So what I'm trying to say is the mindset has to change. So which means the mindset has to change definitely, and we need to change. It's not just for students, right? It's for us who are on the teaching side of things, who are on the academic side of things, on how we impart knowledge and how we test. I mean, that's what we do, right? If a student is understanding something well or not. So reasoning has to be important. Now it comes to computer science or software background, thanks to also Miss Aruna when she mentioned this during the talk. It's a design skill, right? They need to understand critical thinking and they need to understand design, software design, system design. System designing is becoming more important today, right, than any other time, right? Because it's not about really low level things. Low level things are getting done. Somebody is plumbing it for you, but you need to know how to put the pipes, where to put the pipes, what kind of pipes to put, and why are you putting that, right? So these, how do you abstract out that thinking and make system thinking, system design a very integral part of the curriculum, right? I cannot shout more than this because I feel that this is something we are not doing a lot, right? And we need to do. So I just hope, and also another ask that I have for industry is, don't just test students on DSA, data structures and algorithms. It's not, putting a lot of work on lead code and saying, okay, I can do X better than somebody. I don't think it makes sense at all today. We need to test them also in different ways. So these are the views for teachers, students, and industry people. Thanks.
The question is well answered in all the perspectives, industry, teachers, and students. Yeah, definitely. When I had this question, I thought every panelist would ask for the chance.
Yeah. So, see, from a certainly great answers, and I think system design is more important than ever. So, I always call my friends and ask, who cleared OpenAI or whatever these like Anthropic or whoever they go, and I'll say, hey, what is the questions? What is happening right now? Even though I'm not going to interview, I just want to know what are they asking, like Meta, all these companies. It is fascinating that in 2006 when I was preparing for placements, it is the same DSA and system design. It's 20 years now, nothing has changed. Truly nothing has changed. Like it is the same set of DSA that gets asked in if you want to go to Meta, if you want to Anthropic, if you want to OpenAI, any of these topmost companies, it's the same set of questions, and that is what is getting asked. And certainly, there is a whole debate about hey, the other part is all these AI companies who have all these sophisticated technology and models, sometimes you see the CEOs coming and pumping, hey, we have reduced the workforce. We have stopped hiring engineers. Then I call the head of engineering, who's probably one of my buddies, and I ask, hey, what is happening? He said, no, he's bullshit. It's actually, I'm sorry, but he says that like we have a lot of engineers to hire. So there's always this myth, but certainly system design and the core computer science skill set still holds. So that's the point.
Yeah, you can.
To this, I want to say, see, nowadays, AI, ChatGPT, whatever, they can generate code and you can copy it, paste it, it will work fine. But what I am looking for, or generally people like us are looking for, is someone who will be able to understand the code and decide and to be able to come up with the trade-off. Okay, you can write a code in 4 different ways, but what is the trade-off in implementing it in this way and this way and this way, and being able to be talk about it and make a discerned choice there, saying this is why I think for this scenario, this piece of code is what I will choose. I have no issues with people asking ChatGPT to give me code, different version, but you need to have the aptitude and the right set of skills and the knowledge to pick the right one for the scenario you're working on. So that's what I want, critical thinking. Don't take whatever ChatGPT gives you, take for some things, but then always be able to ask and ask it to do better, because when you ask ChatGPT to do better, it always does better. So you should know the difference between a substandard code and a better code or substandard output from any of these models and a better models. For that, ChatGPT can't tell you. You need to know that. You need to know to ask it to do better. So that's what is important. So have that critical, questioning ability. Don't mug things and put the code and remember the system. You do not need to remember there should be a semicolon, should end here, and there should be within quotes. You don't need to remember that anymore. But what do you need to know is what are the features? What do I want? What am I trying to do here? How can I do it better? Can I do it better? Think. Use your time not to code now, but use your time to think how you can do this better. Yeah, that's what I want to add.
Anand, you want to add something?
Yeah, just like to add a little bit of my perspective. While I agree about the system skills and the design knowledge and so on, I have a slightly different perspective. I still think data structures and algorithms are important. They are foundational. And let me put it this way, right? The analogy is that just because the calculator was invented, you did not stop learning arithmetic in school, right? In the same way, even for you to be able to understand at the system level, at the design level, you need to understand the concepts of how data structures work, how algorithms work, searching, sorting, memory management, all those skills that you learn today, right? And so I would be careful about saying those are not useful anymore, right? They are critical, and they are, like many people say, a large part of the way you are assessed when you are interviewed in large companies, because those things still form the foundation of the software that is running today. So that's my perspective.
Hello. I also have a perspective here. Obviously, since I'm from computer science background, I want to second on both of these guys. Uh, I've been in industry for like 13 years, and why do I data structures and algorithm is one thing. Maybe if I say maybe that's not important, something else can do it for you. ChatGPT can do it for you. That doesn't mean computer science curriculum has to change. That's not what it means. But um, why I mean that it's very important to be like 100% be in computer science curriculum is it's not about whether sorting or like algorithms or anything. It's about your ability to go into the details, whether you can break down a bigger problem into smaller chunks, and how to do solve that smaller chunk of problems and come up with something output. Not in programming terms, take your personal lives. We are not bailing out when we face some hurdles and problems. We break down whether it is a family issues or anything, anything. Your ability to solve a problem or bail out depends on the detail that you go into it. So that detail or the building block of things is actually very important, the basic core of computer science. When everything goes out, you will bail out, you, like I said, accountability. You will not go and say when a brain surgery is being done, who writes the code? AI wrote the code. Okay, there is a stack trace issue happen in the middle of a surgery, who fixes it? So that accountability comes from that very basic fundamental zeros and ones. So if we don't understand zeros and ones to the large extent, we are not solving problem, we are good orchestrators, in my opinion. So like we should be both, in my opinion. Yeah.
Hey, just to add for the record, I didn't say that data structures and algorithms are not important because somehow it got mistook like that. What I said is, in our curriculum, we don't have enough focus on system design. That is my point. You look at any curriculum in India in BTech, we don't have a lot of focus on system design. In software engineering also, I mean, of course, we do it little differently, but usually we just teach them through the SDLC, and then somebody in YouTube will come and say, hey, do you want to crack interview into Meta? We'll teach you how to do it, right? Why is there? Because in our curriculum, there is no enough information. So what I'm trying to say is, all the fundamentals are important, but the design is also becoming more and more important today than ever before, right? So that is why I was saying emphasis has to be on system design. I don't want to take away anything that exists in computer science because that is fundamental, right? But we need to emphasize more on system design. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Your point was taken. Your point.
Agree with you. The thing is, by system, we mean end to end, not only data, right? So
Yes.
data is a part of it, but then how from the front end, different things interact with each other, how they interface with each other. The whole thing is what is the system is, how it should do. Should it be event driven? Should it be user driven?
Exactly.
All of those things, how is the handshake happening between two different, systems? All of those, how do you design that? That's what is the whole of system
And
design.
even OS is part of system design. Memory management is part of system
Yes.
design. It's just that it is low level versus high level.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, the point well taken. And the thing is, everyone, you are indirectly talking about the mindset only,
Yeah.
but in a different terminology. Yeah, it's well taken, and your views are very respected. Right. Taking to the next question, how are job roles changing with AI integration across industries? Anand, can you start?
So there's been a debate going on for a few years, couple of years now, since the chat GPT thing, about whether AI would be substitutional or complementary, right? In simple terms, whether AI will take away your job completely, you don't need humans, or will it be an assistant, a co-pilot that will help you in your job, right? Thankfully, the evidence seems to be that the latter is more effective in terms of having AI assist humans seems to be the way to go. I'll give you an example, right? As there are, and by the way, there are companies who jump the gun, try to replace whole teams with AI, and then are dialing back, right? So let's take the example of a customer service operator, right? I'm sure many of you have the experience of talking to a bot, AI bot. How was that experience? Pretty bad, right? And um, the fact is that when you talk to a human, even if the human is not able to solve that problem immediately, you have some kind of assurance that somebody's on the job, right? And now imagine if that human is uh, helped and assisted by an AI agent or AI system that provides that the customer service operator with all the information needed to serve that particular query, right? So you get both satisfied customers and as well as a satisfied customer service operator who has, better job satisfaction, better productivity, and so on, right? So this is just one example. What I'm trying to say is that AI is going to be embedded into the workflows for all kinds of jobs, whether it is design, coding, um, sales, marketing, everything, right? And in my opinion, if you do not use AI, you will be left behind. So that's how it will be.
Yeah, the next question, it's to Praveen and Dr. Karthik Vaidyanathan. Just one point on what should colleges change immediately, the academics change immediately to prepare the students. Yeah, we can leave it to Praveen. Praveen, can you take up? Yeah. Yes. Okay, so you want to take up?
I just want to augment to what he said, which is very important, right? So it's very easy. Some of the courses, it's very easy to do that, right? For example, like in software engineering or operating system networks, that course I do, the question papers are like stories, right? We say that, okay, you're being hired by this company, you have to build something. So everything is very scenario based. We don't ask questions like what is paging, because I don't think that's the point of asking, right? I mean, so in those questions, what we try to evaluate, and it's very hard to evaluate also because every student can come and say, oh, I wrote this, I also have justified it. So considering, for example, some student came and said, I created a new protocol, why should it be TCP or UDP, right? So it's very interesting to observe that what we have learned is in some courses it's very easy to do, and what I'm also observing is that many faculties are saying don't use AI, don't use AI tools. That should not be the way. I think we should ask people, I mean, if they are wanting to use, let them use it. But we need to change our way of evaluating, which is this reasoning part, right? Not asking this memorization questions. Einstein at some point said that facts are something that needs to be referred from a dictionary and not ask like what happened in 1947 this date. I mean, okay, I'll just refer and say, but that's not the point we are good at. AI is good at that, right? It can memorize and it can tell you. But let us go beyond that, right? So it's very hard to do immediately because it requires a very systemic change in the way we'll evaluate probably across the country and so on or beyond the world. But at least we need to change, right? As educators or people who are handling it, we also need to understand the pace, and we need to enable students to use these tools. And as Praveen rightly pointed out, access to resource is very important, right? Not everybody has access. A lot of organizations are coming with policies, but we also need to see how do we democratize access to everybody so that they will all be part of it. I mean, we don't want students to be left out because technology is evolving so rapidly. How do you take it to the student who should not feel that, hey, I don't have access to it, that's why I couldn't learn it? I think that's something we need to change immediately. And maybe our exams should become more practical than too theoretical. Yeah.
Yeah, well taken. Everyone must be wondering, still Dr. Anjani hasn't got the chance. There is a separate segment for the quantum power. So the session, let me say it as chat 3.1, quantum plus AI. When a quantum computers become practical, will they replace today's computers or will both work together with the help of AI?
Yeah, even if you have a universal quantum computer is completely error mitigated and error corrected is ready, most probably it's not going to replace or disturb the existing ecosystem. As I said in the talk, it's going to be hand in hand. Like you need to work back and forth between classical infrastructure and quantum infrastructure. The part of the code which is not computationally intense, we are working on the classical machines. It can be a CPU or GPU. A little more computation intense as long as the practical timelines. We can use supercomputers. If it's going beyond that, we can use quantum. But all the time you need to take the trade-off. So whenever you do any algorithm or any workload, three trade-offs. One is the time complexity, how much time your workload is demanding, your program or algorithm. Second thing, how accurate the results, how much resource cost we are investing on it. It can be comes from the hardware, it can be from the human resources, because if it's running for 2 to 3 months, we are investing both on the hardware side and human resource side. Sometimes quantum is expensive, but it may do something in a few minutes. Instead of waiting for a few months, you can do it a few minutes. You need to have the trade-off in between, but it works in hand. The way we have a machine learning, we have a counterpart for the quantum machine learning. We have a neural networks, we have a quantum neural networks. Uh, but you need to be diligent enough to do like, is really computation intense to move to the quantum or not?
So quantum is completely very curious topic for me, but what I understand a little bit about is it's like mobile phones are there, they are more powerful now, but still we have not given up on laptops. We still use laptops for certain kind of jobs. So mobiles and laptops will go always hand in hand. And in addition to students in and everybody actually, in addition to thinking about what works, what are we going to do for this, we also need to know what we shouldn't do with that particular tool. So we just because the tool is there doesn't mean that you're going to use it. You always need, for any tool or any product you choose, you need to know you have to use this for these purposes and you should not use this for these purposes. So always learn both sides, when to use and when not to use. That's when that question of will we use quantum like a mobile phone in future? No, we're never going to do that because quantum's purpose seems to be different. And the way I understand from today's listening to you is that you would use quantum when it's not about speed. Also, it's about when there's like multiple scenarios which needs to be worked out and you need to come up with a solution. That's when you would be using the quantum one. But if you want to do one thing, same thing, faster or multiple times, then you would use a normal computing, which is more than enough. So there is not really a need to swap everything normal computing with the quantum computing. That's my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, actually, everyone using generative AI. This is to do automating coding, right? So in quantum also we do use generative AI when you have a repeated tasks. When you have the repeated task, you can also use generative AI to do it. Uh, but what differ, as the previous question you asked about the students and what college to be changed, let me ask you a counter question. Suppose if your algorithm is running for 10 years, okay, because there are cases in the drug discovery use cases and protein folding, because of the molecular configuration, all those things, it will run for a huge time. Which AI or chatbot is going to tell you when to use quantum, where to use quantum? There's a where actually missing. The program can be automated. The ChatGPT can read it in the program, but the essence of the mathematics behind the program, initially we used to use C++ library, MATLAB library. We are simply calling. No one knows uh, what is there inside the library. No one is actually have that curiosity to understand what is there happening, which kind of mathematical heavy lifting is going in that library. So if you don't know when to use the eigenvalue decomposition or single value decomposition, when to use the preconditioning techniques, how do you optimize the code? How else what you do, right? If you are doing with one hardware, you will go for two times of the hardware or three times of the hardware. You try with AML, you do the parallel programming, you do HPC quantum. But much simpler version is to look at the code, understanding what are the traditional ways you can play the algorithm that is actually missing from the colleges. The fundamental traditional uh, thing is there in your own discipline. That there is a reason if you are taking a CSER, EER, ECER, information theory, you are leaving the traditional science and technology, going behind the AML or HPCR programming, something. The predominantly traditional sciences is the one will give you the use cases. Those are the things will give you the path, what the next technology will come. So this has to be changed at the college level. You should be mathematically have that foundation. This you need to understand the science and the interdisciplinary nature. See now, when we started it 10 years back, AML, we thought this for computer science people. But each and every discipline using AML right now, it took us 10 to 12 years to understand AML is not a subject, it's a tool. And HPC again started from the computer science. We thought it's a parallel programming, CUDA is there. But again, it's again a tool. If you are leaving your science and engineering fundamentals, all these things are layers as a catalyst or accelerator to use it. Only one thing is that there is a reason, in Japanese they say ikigai, right? There is a ikigai why you have chosen that specific discipline. It can be physics, chemistry, or biochemistry, electrical, what. You need to have that deep technical knowledge in your own discipline, so that all these things are tools how you can leverage them and achieve something in your own domain.
The one thing I would actually request the colleges to consider would be, for anything we are teaching, tell the practical use of it. Where will we use it? How it will be used? It because nowadays people, it's a joke saying that, oh, I learned the algebra. Where am I using it real life? No, but that's not what it is. But if you teach it with an example, teach it with the live, where you can actually use it, how it makes sense, then there is a lot bit of capture onto that, what we are learning, what we are teaching.
In fact, you've saved the time. That was the second question I had. So, moving on to the next segment, all would have heard about Mingo County, right? And Dr. Karthik Vaidyanathan's session was really connected with that. Mingo County in West Virginia has emerged as a location where there are a lot of large data centers, cloud infrastructures, and lot of energy requirement resources infrastructures are there. And what happened was it supported everything, but what happened to the energy consumption, water usage, environmental impact, and how the local communities are suffering? This is the warm up for the case study impact of generative AI, which is the next segment. Okay, so taking that into account, let me start with Praveen. The impact of generative AI is the essence of this round. As Gen AI adoption scales globally, you would have seen scales globally, what hidden environmental costs such as energy consumption, carbon footprint, or water usage do you think we have currently underestimated?
Yeah, at least one thing which that was alarming was the usage, especially the bottled drinking water across the world. So yes, Virginia is one of the states with highest.
Yeah. Professor Pablo, would you like to answer this question? Which is yes.
Uh, Back in 1988, I remember, or 85, 87, but the models that they were, the collectionist models of the Japanese. It was off for 20%. I'm very concerned now because I decided we probably need to be doing heuristically lots of things and exploring in configuration space. But again, it's not a problem of energy, it's not a problem of energy. But that's that. Tasks that are part of examinations, taking something, some assessment. Uh, that's something But again, going back to the point of the we need to keep on teaching fundamentals. People need to understand the fundamentals.
Yes, Professor. Thank you.
And that's, I think that's
Yes. Yes, Professor. Thank you. So coming to the end, so I won't even call it as end. Okay. None of us know what is end, right? So I would call it as bottom line. If many of you have seen in villages and towns, they used to say, தண்டூரா போட்டு சொல்லுவாங்க இதனால் அறிவிப்பது என்னவென்றால், right? It's not a conclusion. It is not an inference. It is just a bottom line. So instead of questions, I give the chance to all the participants. AI bubble, is it a hype or a reality? Again, I repeat, it's not AI. There is no question in saying AI is a hype or bubble. I mean, AI is hype or reality. The question for this round or the theme for this round is AI bubble. We are all seeing a big circular economy, but really it is not big. Everyone understands how each one funds and where the money goes, how the infrastructure has been invested by almost all the industries. Is it going to create a bubble? So, your thought process. Let's start with Aruna. Okay. AI bubble, hype, or reality?
Well, it is looking like a bubble at the minute, only because of the way how going to use AI. So I would say if you are focused on outcomes, and if you're not building a wrapper around already existing things, then it is not a bubble. It is producing something of value. So always think about this. If I turn off the AI portion of whatever I'm building, will the system still function? If you say, yeah, it will function, it's just a smart way to interact or something like that, then if it's acting like a wrapper, then yeah, it is a bubble and there's no real value which has been added. But if it is a product which completely revolutionizes the way we are doing something, it cuts out the workflow and like human interventions, and if you're giving a genuine product, then which when you turn off, the product is off, like you don't get that feature, you don't get that functionality. In that case, there is a value, and it won't be a bubble. It will scale, and it will not die off when the fashion goes off. So the best thing about the way to think about it with respect to the Internet of Things itself is, people thought, if you have a website, that means you are on the internet, and then every person who has a website is now successful internet millionaire, billionaire. No, it's not that. A website does not translate into an internet business. So just like that here, just because you're using AI in some form in the product what you're creating, doesn't mean that you have an AI product, but you're just using AI to put a wrapper around something. But when you build something completely, which is in itself very valuable, so that's when it will scale, and you won't be a part of the bubble.
Can I answer too? I think there is two angles to it. AI bubble is, yes, a bubble from the economy point of view. Let's go from the side of consumption, which is we are. We are not like the companies and big corporates who are investing in it. It's going to add value. It's definitely adding value. Um, like it's just trying to do a lot of shortcuts to get to a point where we want to go from A to B. So from consumer point of view, yes, it's going to be successful, but it's not 100% path, 0 to 1, probably 0.7. It's definitely. But from the economy point of view, yes, it is a bubble until somebody really revolutionizes the way, like expense to ROI ratio, if somebody bridges it, maybe going to put the data centers in the space is the solution. But yeah, it is a talk that is going on right now. But yeah, that's my take.
Anantya views.
Yeah. So I'll just add a little bit of flavor to what both of them said, right? Uh, Generally, a tech bubble happens when there is a whole lot of investment and hype into some technology without the underlying business value, right? That's essentially what I think Aruna was also saying. So, from the perspective of investment today in AI, there are two aspects. Uh, there are two sections of investment, right? One is in the AI infrastructure, which is all these mega data centers, AI data centers that are being built. Um, so these are generally being built by these deep pocket large companies, FANG companies, or sovereigns, again, with a whole lot of money, right? And then the second part of the investment goes into the startups that are building products using AI, right? And it is important that these startups have a viable business model because they have to generate revenue for all this investment to be, um, you know, validated, right? Let's say, right? If they don't generate money, then the entire thing falls down like a pack of cards. Um, in my opinion, I think it's a little too early to say whether this is still a bubble, right? Because we are still finding out applications where this can generate money. So again, there are two ways you can generate money. One is you save money by, uh, you know, kind of optimizing what you do within your company. Second, you find ways to generate new revenue, right? And I think is the second that is more important. The first, saving money, will only take you to a certain extent. But there are already companies which are making strides there, still early stages. For example, uh, the I'm sure many of you would have seen the Rufus shopping assistant in Amazon, and uh, Jeff Bezos has gone on thing to say that people who use Rufus, they are 60% more likely to order, and that is directly impacting their revenue, right? Similarly, personalization, large-scale personalization, and has increased revenues for companies like Target and Walmart. So there are already stories coming out, and many companies have started using AI to quickly generate new products and services that were not possible to turn around in such quick fashion earlier. So I think there are applications. There might be a temporary hiccup or downturn, but in my opinion, AI is here to stay.
Adding on to Sir's perspective, I'll tell from two different angles. One is from the customer side, and the other one is being a software developer, like from the software developer perspective. From customer's perspective, it is definitely like adding value. Like Alexa Plus is now like even more interactive when we compare to the old Alexa. Like similar to what Sir mentioned, Amazon Rufus has completely changing the way how customers do shopping. So from customers' perspective, we really see the value. From software development perspective, I would say like software development cycle itself is like going through a tectonic shift. Uh, Earlier, like product managers would used to like prepare a roadmap and give it to software developers to like build a product. But right now, they're also like doing a small prototype and asking us to like build the entire final product. Like building a prototype has become like super easy, but at the same time, the core skills and expertise required to be a software builder is still applicable. I would say something it's like being a software developer now. I feel it's like something like wearing a jetpack or a Iron Man suit. Like it amplifies things, but still the critical decision making is made by me. I like probably like while driving a car, like I still determine the direction, but the tool is helping me. That's my perspective.
No, I mean, I think I've said a lot, but I just want to add. See, I'll come from the other side, which is hype versus reality part, right? So the hype. So in IEEE Software had a very nice article in 2003 where they asked about what is hype in software. And the interesting line goes, hype is something where if you really don't understand the broader ramifications or the underlying technology on it, right? So that is why something is always hyped up. So if you look at the current scenario, yes, definitely there is a hype, right? Because a lot of people are just looking at, okay, this is possible, that is possible. But at some point it will plateau, right? Where people will start realizing, okay, this is possible, this is potential, but this is not possible, or this is an overkill. So at that point, probably we will realize what really adds value to the customers. But having said that, I completely agree with what he was mentioning, which is you can go from 0 to 70 very fast today, right? That 70 to 100 is where you put your brain and effort, or 60, 70, depending on how you are. Now, don't quote me on numbers, right? But that part is where you can add a lot of value and push yourself. So definitely there is value, and in few years I think we'll go to the next stage. There are a lot of fundamental works also happening. It's not just about generative AI or large language models. A lot of AI researchers are coming with vision models and things are happening. So definitely it's going to go skyrocketing from here in terms of potential and possibilities. Yeah.
Can I ask him a
Yeah.
quick question?
Uh-huh.
I got lost in the fact that you remember an article from 2003, and I completely forgot what you mentioned about the hype which you read in that article. So, what is hype again in that
So
article?
hype is something where you don't understand the broader ramifications of what could be possible without also understanding the lower level part of it. Yeah.
Got it. Because I was like, why does he remember something from 2003? And then I didn't listen to what you said.
Yeah, sure.
I think most have covered it, but I'll just add like 2 points. See, certainly AI is a new technology wave. Just like any other technology wave, there's always this. There'll be a bubble. It goes through this S curve, and certainly many companies will go to zero. Some will succeed. Like that's just like any other technology wave. But what makes this wave very unique is this whole pitch about this AGI theory, right? So the foundational model, all the CEOs go and say, hey, in 2 years we'll achieve AGI, and 3 years we'll achieve AGI. So this creates a massive FOMO for the investor community. Whoever achieves this AGI is going to take over the world.
3 months we will achieve AGI.
What?
We already think we have AGI, but then we want to go to market in 3 months.
Yeah.
So there you go.
See, so pitches like this will create FOMO, and then people throw money at it, and then what you get at the end is a tool that autofills your form, or like it is a glorified autocomplete in some sense, and that's what happens, right? So you have to truly keep to the crux of what this tool and the technology wave can do, and then use in the right way.
So PhD Tech, you heard it first from here.
Okay, Praveen, you have anything to add?
Yeah, like at least in my view, AI as some of the things like I would like to have enabled people which are considered technologically illiterate. I think that is the greatest success, and that is going to get better and better. I see. I can share an example from my life where my mom is a retired. Now she can just ask ChatGPT to uh, like revise some of her grammar lessons, some of the novels she read, just by just with a voice prompt. I think that is something AI has brought, and that is definitely going to improve and bring more technologically illiterate people also to the knowledge world.
Yeah, Dr. Anjani, you want to add something on this? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, can I say something?
yeah, you're still in hope. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Professor Pablo, you have something to finally
Yes,
finalize this?
I think that to the question if it is a hype or not, it is and it is not. Depends on how you use it. So there's a lot of hype, of course, but it is a real technology that is here to stay. The in the history of first it was theater, then when cinema began, And I agree that this allowing a lot of people to do things that they never knew possible. But it's also a tool for scientists. I'm questions from number theory. I am able to get at the same time a reasonable answer, both in number theory and in computer engineering. That has never happened. You have to have a university the size together in a single place. So we will not even and there is a reality as well. Very excited by it.
Thank you, Professor. So we have come to the end of the fire chat. Oh, you have
Sorry, if I
something.
may,
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, if I may just add something.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to also add that the we must remember that while the dot-com boom and bust happened, right, the investments that happened to build the internet during the dot-com boom is the basis of a lot of things that we take for granted today. When the dot-com boom was happening, nobody had any clue about social network. YouTube was not there. There was no Google, right? Nobody even dreamed up those applications, right? But those things we take for granted today. Similarly, the infrastructure is now being built for AI. We still don't know what kind of applications people will dream up. So I would just like to say.
Dr. Pablo, he said that the AI is a hype and it's not a hype. So that falls on your quantum is genre. So you can take it from here. Yeah, Schrodinger's cat too.
Yeah. So is that, can I make the end of the session? So it's only end of the session and not the conclusion of AI. As I said you already, it's only a bottom line. And coming to the end of this fireside chat, you've been listening human stories, the decisions they took, the dilemmas that had, and the disruptions they were using. Right? Let's finalize and say positively AI is a hope and will have a human impact. Thank you all for joining. And this is really a first of this kind